On today's episode of the Restaurant AI podcast, I am joined by John Davie, founder and CEO of Buyer's Edge platform. John started the company in 1998 at 21 years old, going door to door, convincing independent restaurants to pool their buying power. Today, Buyer's Edge is a leading digital procurement network, serving hundreds of thousands of food service locations, with more than 40 acquisitions and what John believes is the largest, most diverse data set in the industry. I love talking with John. He's smart, decisive, and always looking to the future. As a company, they've been working with machine learning for over a decade, but post-ChatGPT, John has personally been in the weeds and is building his vision of what AI will become for the industry. We get into it all, including the upcoming launch of CollectivIQ, the first step in the creation of the world that John is bringing to fruition. But before that, a quick thanks to our sponsor, ClearCOGS. ClearCOGS is the leading provider of decision intelligence for restaurant operations, turning the data they already have into practical daily guidance for prep, ordering, and labor, so that operators can make better decisions before the day gets away from them. Now, here's my conversation with John Davie. Well, John, I'm excited to have you on today, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. So just to start, can you walk me through Buyer's Edge? Because every time I go to NRA, Buyer's Edge, giant booth, and then you guys have AI attached to it, booth there. You've got the emerging fund. You've got your tentacles all over the industry. So walk me through. What do you got going on?
Yeah, it's both a blessing and a curse. We have a lot of awesome stuff going on. We've made a ton of acquisitions of different companies and brands. We go to market under a lot of different brands and labels and teams. But the curse to that is it's hard to keep everybody educated on everything that we have happening. So we just try to refer to ourselves as sophisticated instead of complicated. Yeah, that's why we
I
got to
like
go
what
to
you
these
did
events.
there from a marketing standpoint. We're not complicated. We're just sophisticated.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Doesn't
dumb
really
the
solve the problem.
sophistication down for me. Give me the plain speak. What is Buyer's Edge as a whole?
All right. So we really, at the core of it, it's around digital food service procurement. Starting way back in 1998 when I started the company with my father, we set out to help small independent mom and pop restaurants get the same buying power, leverage, and advantages as the large mega chains. And my father had started companies similar in totally unrelated industries, leveraging buying power together to drive down pricing. And so we wanted to apply the same thing to help small independent restaurants. Now, we didn't have a bunch of buying power to kick us off to go get the contracts with all the vendors to drive the better pricing. So we had to go to the restaurants first. So we had to go kind of chicken and egg. We had to go to the restaurants and say, hey, share some information with us, work together with us, join up. Can't save you any money today, but we're going to work hard and collect everybody together, and we're going to eventually drive down pricing and get you better pricing.
It's one of those businesses where once it exists, it's amazing, right? It's hard to compete against, but how you get from A to B and get all of the restaurants on your side, that seems like a monumental task.
It was tough. It was 5 years of just grinding it out, knocking on doors, convincing restaurants to team up with us. I was 21 years old at the time, so didn't have a lot of credibility, no resume, just out of college. So didn't know anything about the restaurant industry. So yeah, it was tough. My father would just limp in, $1,000 here, $2,000 here out of his retirement account to keep us afloat and allow me to, to stay, pay my $500 a month rent. And, but eventually we got there, like I said, it was tough. It was a long road.
90s, $500 rent.
Yeah.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. No, right.
21 years old, fresh into your career, and you've got dad as a boss. What was that like?
Well, I was actually the president from day one, so I was technically on paper his boss. He didn't want to run the company. He just wanted to invest a little bit and be on the road selling. He loved to sell, so he liked to get in front of restaurants and convince them to come on. And he taught me to sell. So yeah, but we've been great partners. He's still a partner. I mean, he's 84 years old, so he likes to come to board meetings and contribute where he can. But we've been good, really 50-50 partners, from the beginning.
Why'd you do it? I mean, that seems like an interesting choice of all the things to create.
Yeah, so my father has a passion for helping small businesses. Like I said, he had a couple other companies that helping small office supply stores, helping small plumbing, electrical distributors. I grew up watching that. I got a passion for it. David and Goliath story, helped the small guy compete with the big guy. And back then, it was all Olive Garden, TGI Fridays, and Applebee's that were growing like crazy back then, and taking market share and putting the small guys out of business. And so that was the focus. And grinded it out for 5 years. And just to bring it back to your original question, is like, we did learn early on that we needed to gather, understand the data. And we an operator handed us, stacks of invoices that were all coffee stained and crumpled up, and said, okay, here's all my invoices. Go figure out how to save me money. So, had to go back home and type them all into an Excel spreadsheet and try to make sense out of all these different disseminated invoices and product names. And that's what ultimately has led us to being what we say is a digital procurement network, because the data and that ties it all together of how we drive savings and value across the whole platform.
It's a unique challenge in the restaurant industry, because if you're a data platform and everybody is on paper, I mean, like when I got out of the industry in like 2017, 18, I still had a clipboard with my invoices that we'd
Yeah.
enter. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a very digital industry.
No.
How'd you deal with that?
Yeah, it was again, it was a big grind, a lot of fat fingering of the stuff into spreadsheets, trying to figure out how to make sense. We hired a developer early on that we could work part-time after his full-time day job, and try to build us a rudimentary data ingestion engine. We did that for a long time. Then we met our first company that we ultimately acquired, called Inside Track. It's still a really big part of our company today.
When was that?
What was that?
When was that you
That was probably
acquired?
we acquired them about 15 years ago. Yeah.
Gotcha. So
So
you guys have been doing acquisitions for a long time.
yeah. Yeah. We've made over 40 acquisitions. That was our first one. And it was definitely needed. They had a large, they had a whole database. They had figured out how to normalize all the products and create, when you talk about, so many different naming conventions and distributor identification numbers, and normalize those to manufacturer numbers. They had figured a lot of that out, and we were paying them a large SaaS fee to help us, and we bought the company, and now we've been able to really scale that, throughout most of our customers.
All right. So take me back to the 90s. Your dad had done this in office supplies. Did you guys ever dream that Buyer's Edge would be what it is today? Or did it just slowly grow into what it is? Or did you know going into it, like, this is huge if we can do it?
I think we knew, obviously, there's a lot of restaurants, so that's why we looked at other industries like the shoe store industry and sporting goods and other things, and we were like, no, we just kept coming back, like, no, restaurants. There's a lot of restaurants, and there's going to be a lot of restaurants, and nothing's going to put restaurants out of business. So we knew obviously the market was huge, and we knew there was a need for it, and we knew we could create, a multi-million-dollar company, but no, I guess we didn't know quite the size and scale. We didn't quite know how much we would expand it. We hadn't thought about an M&A strategy. We hadn't thought about going to international or Europe. So it's definitely grown a lot bigger, and than probably we ever would have imagined.
Do you remember the point in time where you kind of realized you weren't just a buying group, but you were really a data company? Because it feels like that's what you've transitioned into in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely started out very focused on, sort of the GPO model, a buying group, leverage the buying to drive better pricing, and we still do that, and that is still core, and that's how we bring a lot of value to operators. But I would say we were probably, you know, um, probably 8 or 9 years in when it really clicked that if we didn't figure out data at a really high level scale, we weren't going to be able to compete with other much bigger GPOs that had evolved out of the large catering companies and large hotel groups that created mega mega GPOs at that time, and we were nascent compared to those guys, because they came out of large parent companies that already had many billions of buying power. We were in the single digit tens of millions of buying power. They're in the many billions. So we were saying, we are going to win on the basis of being more transparent, being better with data, better with technology. If we have any chance of catching up to these mega GPOs that are out there.
So you're like 30 years old and you're going to go
Yeah.
take on the behemoth GPOs.
Yeah. Yeah.
How'd you come out on top? Was it just the data side of things, or was it incentives? What changed?
Yeah, I think it was one, it was really being able to, that we had been working on that smaller independent restaurant. Everybody else was focused on bigger hotel groups, bigger casinos, bigger multi-unit chain restaurants, healthcare companies, nursing homes. Nobody really could figure out how to tackle the smaller independent mom and pop. And since we had already been focusing on that from the very beginning, we eventually really clicked and figured out how to master the rolling out independence across the board. And once we had it tripped over kind of our first $1 billion of volume in that smaller mom and pop space, it dawned on us like, wow, we can move up market now and help a 20 unit operator, and then a 50 unit operator, and then a 100 unit operator. And so we moved up market. So that was, I think, one big thing, is that we figured out how to scale many different types of operators, where even the big GPOs were just trying to go after the big fish and ignoring all the smaller guys. Secondly, was that data advantage, that first acquisition of Inside Track, and really leaning into bundling software and data and transparency tool with the GPO business model, bringing those two together. Plenty of big operators, especially like Las Vegas casinos and stuff, that had no interest in a GPO, were turning down all the big GPOs and everything, because they were like, they already had hundreds of millions of buying power. They didn't need a GPO in their mind. But they did need software, and they did need tech, and they did need to normalize all their contracts and data and their price auditing. And that's when we brought them with Inside Track. And that got our foot in the door, that got built a relationship. And then over time, we showed them how our GPO contracts could save them money. And so that was a big win.
Well, and it makes sense, but I think one of the harder things is like, how do you make money? I get that, there's a need to save money in the independent side. If you can get everybody together, you've got this giant cohort, but how does the company make money?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different ways we make money, but the core way is that we get transaction fees, admin fees, and rebates from the vendors as we drive down and negotiate a contract price, which we call typically a deviated price. We negotiate a rebate, and then we might negotiate another administrative fee, with these suppliers. And so that way we can sign up operators at no cost. So the restaurant chain can join totally for free. It's a very simple sign up digitally. And then we collect their data, we normalize the data, and then we get, the operator better pricing, rebates, and then we get administrative fees and transaction fees from the vendors.
All right. So let me get this straight. You guys basically have all the gigantic vendors that have all the money and all the power paying you to go save money for all the little guys, the little independent restaurants out there. I mean, like, it's like the Robin Hood of business models.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Other than Robin Hood was stealing, I'd like to think that we're not stealing from anybody. We're bringing value across the supply chain.
They're choosing to give you the money.
Yeah, they're very, very willingly paying us and saving operators money, and it's a great thing.
All right, so you've got 40 acquisitions in. You've got your tentacles everywhere. You started out as the GPO. You're on the digital side, procurement. But like, how far do the tentacles reach? What are you involved in?
Yeah, a lot. So we have multiple GPO brands that go to market for different segments of the market. We have, so we call that our digital procurement network. That's a major division, our biggest division. And then we have our fresh division, which we've acquired 2 companies there, and we manage about $4 billion of fresh produce across a network of about 160 local produce distributors, wholesalers. We have about a couple hundred grower shipper contracts, and we bring a huge amount of value in fresh and transparency and food safety to multi-unit operators, large customers across fresh produce and fresh meat and seafood. through a network of regional distributors. That's our second biggest division.
Love that division. Prior to Jimmy John's franchisee, we had our whole supply chain and all of our procurement contracts. But when it came to produce, like, we were still picking up the phone and calling local places. What's your lettuce price today? It was, it's the Wild West.
It is. As we bring all the sophistication there, we bring a full program, farm to fork, contracts all the way back to the farms, the transportation across the country to local, say, distributor in Boston, and then contract that distributor in Boston to deliver the last mile, and traceability and food safety all the way through, manage huge operators in that space, and bring a whole food safety team, huge amount of savings and visibility and transparency to it.
All right. Outside of procurement, what else?
Yeah, and then our third largest division is our SaaS software division. So that's where we have Aerostream is our largest enterprise supply chain software. About 60 out of the top 100 restaurant chains in the country use that tool. So it's used by many of the biggest operators in the country. And then Inside Track, which I've mentioned was our first acquisition, is used by a lot of hotel companies. Most of the casinos in Las Vegas leverage our Inside Track enterprise tool. And then we have a full back office inventory, recipe costing, and full-blown restaurant accounting software in our back office set. And then our last division I'll mention is our supply chain management division, which is hands-on, white glove, full service supply chain management that any operator who has a smaller procurement team can lean on our supply chain team to RFP contracts, negotiate specific proprietary deals, and bring them even more value at a higher service level. So those are our four key divisions.
I don't get the sense that you say no that often. It seems like you guys are open to, like, if there's an opportunity, let's go check it out.
Yeah, that does bring me to a very big recent acquisition called Dinova, which is a company that brings corporate diners to restaurant companies. So that's our first kind of non-food service procurement acquisition, where really they are helping the restaurant operator gain very high value customers. And think of the traveling sales rep for Pfizer or Merck, or the corporate catering for Microsoft or Amazon. We steer those level of high value diners into our restaurant customers. So new revenue in the front door.
Shout out to Laura, one of my good friends over at Dinova.
Okay, sure, yeah, she's great. Yep. So they're part of the Buyer's Edge family now. Yep.
How do you deal with acquisitions? Because it's something that not many people are really good at. I see more failed acquisitions where they try and bring the software in and it doesn't work and they can't integrate. You guys have done it more than anybody else. Like, how do you make it work?
Yeah, I think it starts with, we like acquiring, founder-led, great management teams that are already running a strong, well-run business. And then we just keep those people in place and we empower them to think bigger. We empower them with more resources, help them build bigger sales teams. We help them lean on the platform for all the things that are not core to their business. Most of them don't have large sales teams. We help them build bigger teams. They don't have a big HR. We have more HR. They don't have a sophisticated finance team. They can lean on our finance team. But then a lot of them don't have all the tools, technology, and resources. So when we plug in all of our technology tools and they don't have to now build or buy all these other tools or try to integrate them. It just empowers them to grow and focus on bringing more savings and value to the customer. So that's kind of our strategy.
I imagine after like 36 times, you've gotten pretty good at figuring out like what makes a good company or what's real technology. How do you figure that out?
Yeah. Well, one, we have such a good pulse in the market. We already know, they're a good company from competing with them or talking to their customers, engaging with their customers. We get to hear from the supplier community, so we know if they're, are well respected with the vendors out there. We look really closely at their data. We even approach M&A very much from a data perspective. So, even if the revenue or EBITDA or this or that is not totally where it needs to be, but if we can see value in the size of the data or the where the data is at, even if it's dirty data, we say, okay, we can take your data, we know we can clean it and make it more magical and squeeze more value for the operators out of the data you have. So those are some of the things we look at that is kind of unique compared to how, well, some people just look at an acquisition and say, can I cut a bunch of costs and drop some money by reducing headcount? We don't really look at it that way.
Yeah, that and the fact that you guys have such a sprawling organization now, I'm sure there are multiple synergies to at least a few companies.
Yeah, no, we really think mostly about the revenue synergies, right? Is there cross selling? Can their customers participate in some of the other products or services we have? Can our other software tools or GPO brands bring value to their customers, and drive more revenue overall and more value for the operators and the suppliers that we work with?
You brought up having like a finger on the pulse of the industry. You
Mm-hmm.
guys are so well positioned for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to just hear your perspective on the industry today. What's going on in the industry? What's working? What's not? How do you feel about today's restaurant industry?
Yeah. I'm an optimist, so I always kind of have the most optimistic bent on everything. Typically, so with that being said, I think the industry is an amazing industry. I think it's going to continue to thrive and grow for a long time to come. I think it's one of the safest industries. Is it's not going anywhere. It's not going to just get disrupted by any one technology or some shift in the market. People have to eat. They're going to eat, and they're not going to eat out less over time. I don't believe. I don't think they're going to learn to cook in their kitchens a whole lot more. So long term, the industry is in a great shape and very very much worth investing in, especially if you put a long term lens. It's always going to have its challenges from a macro perspective of the current consumer sentiment and how people are feeling and how much of their dollars are they willing to spend outside of home. Um, but 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 those are typically going to be, I think, relatively short lived, and it'll affect parts of the market. Um, but food service in general, I mean, we're in the not just restaurants, we're in food service in general. When one segment, if fine dining is getting hurt, the other segments will oftentimes and be okay. Or if fast casual is being hurt, there's other segments of the market that are gonna thrive. So yeah, so there's definitely some negative trends, this year, but overall, I'm not too concerned.
It always feels like now is different, and then in 10 years, you realize it was kind of the same, but it's always been hard to make money in restaurants. It feels like it's harder today, and I don't
Yeah.
know if that's just third-party fees or the amount of work and technology and everything it takes to run a modern-day business today is more, but does it feel harder to you for restaurants to make money today? I mean, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that yeah, it was definitely when I started the company back in the late '90s. The way operators would just focus on a couple things, right? They would focus on their costs and their labor and
Live
you
within
know
your four walls. It's
right.
like I got to manage, the customers in the kitchen or the customers in the lobby, my food cost and labor, and that's the business. Today, it's like you also need to be a master at TikTok and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure your CDP is set up correctly.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, just the amount of data points and analytics you got to track and everything is, back when we started, most operators just good old fashioned pen and paper and a clipboard. I mean, it wasn't exactly there was a lot of BI and data analytics and data science, when when you're operating on a clipboard. So now you got to be paying attention to a lot more statistics and trying to figure out what's the highest priority.
It feels like things are starting to get bundled more. That,
Hmm.
5 years ago, or I guess 10 years ago, there weren't that many software providers. So you were just happy to find one, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you had all of these new companies come up. It was like a renaissance of restaurant technology. And there was these point solutions that were best in class. And now it's overwhelming. people don't have the time and they're trying to kind of consolidate and simplify. I would think you guys, with your unique relationship with restaurants, would almost be one of those, across all your portfolio companies, like, here's your prepackaged software so that I'm not thinking about, my whole technology stack. I go back to the food costs, labor, and keeping the customers happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if it was that simple, but like you said, people have, they're tied into one thing over here and this over here, but we can bring them this and that. But there's sometimes where we can certainly bundle a whole package and make it very simple, and all of our tools obviously talk to each other and are integrated with each other, and so that's what we've been bringing together is full back end, full blown supply chain software tools with now a full, inventory, recipe, accounting software. We don't have all the front of house tools though, so we're not, they're still gonna have to pick, and decide all their partners on the front of the house. So we're not too much on the front of the house software side.
Hey, that makes me happy because
Yeah.
franchisors were always buying everything you could imagine to try and increase revenue because they didn't
Yep.
live on the bottom line. But all of
Mhm.
us, is like they got the bottom line, the back of house. It got neglected for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it's a good point. I mean, right, there's been all the evolution in point of sale systems and all the third party, delivery services and third party marketing and customer engagement. There's a lot there, and I've talked to them and we engage and we partner with a lot of them. But man, there is a lot to unpack there. We're pretty much solely on back of the house related softwares.
So a good friend of mine, Derek, who's a customer with us, he's a evangelical supporter of Vicky. Like, he loves the CDP. And he's like,
Mm.
man, we have data on everything. I know who my guests are, what they like, when they're going to come in, all of that. And then I go into the back of the kitchen and I've got Bill over here who's just making tuna salad or chicken salad based on what he thinks he should make. And he's like, I got all the intelligence in the front of the house, but all the money is in the back of the house. And it's the area that we are, poorest in knowledge. It's like, where is the, operations version of the CDP? What's my operational decision platform? I mean,
Yeah.
how do you approach like the back of the house, and what are your thoughts on the digitization of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does really start with getting your data digitized and the average operator buys from a lot of different vendors, has a lot of different suppliers, and that data is not really consolidated. It's in Cisco's eCisco, and it's over here in this spreadsheet, and they don't really have a database bringing it together. They have small meat vendors, seafood vendors, that stuff's typically all over the place. And so it's pretty hard to really, have any intelligence or AI or real decision making around it when you have very disseminate procurement data. And so that's really where we start helping operators is bring it all together in one place, clean it, normalize it. The data also comes in very dirty, so you can't just, even if you just get it in, it doesn't all line up. There's nomenclature, it doesn't line up. So we clean, normalize data, and then from there, a lot of magic can happen.
Walk me through that, because I think one of the biggest opportunities is restaurants do have a ton of data. So
Yep.
much data that it's almost overwhelming to do
Hmm.
anything with. And the
Yep.
one thing AI is really, really good at is actually being able to translate that data into something, a 22-year-old general manager could just
Yeah.
understand.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So that's where we get really excited about AI is we've been spending decades. Number one, collecting the procurement data in a digital format. Number two, normalizing it, cleaning it, making that data, clean and actionable. And we've been deploying AI for over 15 years against that data, way before ChatGPT or any of it was a massive buzzword. We were building mini neural nets and doing product matching and data cleaning on that data. And so then, obviously, when with the advent of ChatGPT and that about 3.5, 4 years ago, and on all the layers of evolutions of AI now, we're sitting on 110 billion of cleaned, normalized food service transaction. I think it's the largest most diverse data set in the whole industry. Even bigger than like a Cisco's data set. And it's very diverse across independent restaurants up to large chain restaurants to hotels, casinos, and many thousands of different vendors. And so, now we're in this phase now with AI is now taking all of that and not just rendering it in sort of dashboards that have a whole bunch of analytics for an operator to try to unpack, but just bringing them like proactive decision making, right to their fingertips to the actions they need to take to move the needle on their revenue or profit.
All right, so I got to catch the first couple years in restaurant technology pre-ChatGPT. And so I've got to follow the arc for the last 5 years, and it's been crazy. But I got to imagine, from your perspective, if you were playing around with neural nets 15 years ago, running on probably on like local servers, not even like cloud-based, like what's the evolution been like?
Yeah, it's been wild and fun, and it's just I'm not a developer or technology, like I didn't train on technology, but I've dived into it deeper, and it's just a passion of mine. I enjoy it, geeking out with my developers around how to apply AI, and I can explain it to say manufacturers or restaurants in an easy way that they get excited about, even though they're not really deep into it. And so, especially in the last few years, with ChatGPT and that, we've really quadrupled down on our investment in AI, even though we've been investing in it for 15 years. And we're launching, a big product that we just, launched at our big trade show, our big summit, called CollectivIQ, where we're leveraging all the AIs that you're familiar with, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Claude, and a bunch of others, to make operators' lives really simple and not have them have to pick which AI frontier lab to go with.
All right, so I want to get into the CollectivIQ thing, but before we do, there's something fascinating there with programming. You say I'm not a programmer or a tech guy, right? We all had to rely on like 3% of the population that spoke a very specific language. They could write Python, right?
Yeah.
And they were always the translator, and maybe there'd be multiple people involved, right? Before that actually gets written. And now all of a sudden it's like, we had all of the software created from a very specific personality type, because programmers do have a specific personality in general, not to overgeneralize. And now we're going to open it up. We're going to let the other 97% that didn't speak that language create what they want. I feel like that's got to change completely the type of software, how things are built. It's like a totally different experience. It sounds like you're playing around with it quite a lot.
Oh yeah. Always the challenge was, if you had an idea, a feature or something as a business person, a salesperson, or a non-tech person, you want this cool feature, this piece of software. It's very complicated to articulate that to these developers that you're talking about are unique, and translate that language so that they would actually be able to software code, what you wanted. Now I can go in, I can vibe code exactly what's in my brain, iterate on it by myself, using CollectivIQ or other tools that are powered by AI that now spin up not just a wireframe, not just a better mock-up, but like a full working prototype of what I want before I even give it to the very expensive developers that are hard to talk to.
Well, and there's this whole process of when you're working through it, you realize, oh, I was wrong. I didn't want it that way. Yeah. And that would have been like 6 months you threw away. And instead you figured it out in the first 4 hours.
We figured it out in 4 hours. I iterated. I can show it to a friend who has a restaurant. Say, what do you think of this? Play with this for a second. Text it to him, and you already have like customer feedback before it even goes to an expensive developer. It's really incredible what you can do now.
So ChatGPT was great, right? Like when it first came out, could write things, and there was some marketing stuff. But I remember when I first got Cursor, and like, my co-founder got me set up, and like I sat down at 7 a.m. at my computer. It's like in my underwear having coffee, and literally didn't move till like 2:00. Something went off, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be in a meeting. It was like, this changed everything in my world. Do you remember the first time that like you were given that power?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I did have to get I didn't get into Cursor. This was maybe like, so this was about a year and a half ago. I had my developer, yeah, basically just show me how to plug one of the LLMs and set me up with a mini IDE. And I built my first game with the family, and I built like a duck hunter game. And
Yeah.
so it was clunky and it was hard. I had to like copy paste, and I had to learn some basic software jargon and code and whatnot. But I ultimately, after, like you say, 3-4 hours, I had a duck hunter game that I sat and played with the kids. And yes, it was eye opening.
Same deal. And I have mixed feelings about this. I sat down with my daughter. We did one of those like maze runner games where like things are
Hmm.
popping up and they could say like, no, I wanted to have palm trees and it'd
Yeah.
be snowing and there'd be
Yep.
elves around. And but it
Yeah.
was this really cool process. And now I'm conflicted where it's like my daughter wants a laptop and she's like 9. It's like, do I really want to give her AI to go build games on? Like, it seems like it'd be a good thing, but also like, as they were just going to give the nuclear codes to, the 9-year-old.
No. I'd let them run with it. I hand my phone now, and my friend, I'll sit with my 7-year-old, and I'll say, we're just bored. I'll be like, what do you want to build? What kind of game? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, what's your favorite animal? An axolotl. I'm like, okay, how about a game of axolotl? What's your second favorite animal? I think she said a zebra. Okay, so let's make an axolotl and a zebra game together. And who's the bad guy? Like, who do you think the bad guy should be? And she'd be like, the dragon. Okay, so then we just, all right, type it in, tell me what you want to say. And then lo and behold, 3 minutes later, we have an axolotl zebra tag team game against the dragon. It's pretty amazing.
Well, and it flips everything on its head, right? Because
Yeah.
it used to be the barrier was the technical capability and how hard
Yeah.
it's going to be. Today,
Yep.
it's like the idea. When you have
Yeah.
the power to do anything, you sit there
Yep.
and go, well, what do I actually want? Like
Yeah.
it's the creative problem solving that's hard.
Yeah. It's creativity and then execution. You still, the AI doesn't solve total execution. It can shorten some execution steps, but you're still going to need probably a human for a long time to actually go out and sell it and convince people to buy it and all that. I One day we'll turn that over to the robots, but right now, for foreseeable future, we're going to have to still execute as humans.
Yeah, everyone that talks about AI, being the end of white collar jobs, I always sit there and think, when now that we have the capability to do anything in the business, and
Yeah.
there's no excuse as to like whether we can get it done or not, you now have so much more work to do. And it's
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm working more than I've ever worked because of AI, but on the flip
Yeah.
side, now like it's more work. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I don't buy into that. I think that the white collar jobs are going to be fine. I think it's when a white collar job becomes, 25-30% more productive, then the whole economics change around that. And businesses naturally, no matter how big or profitable they are, they want to get bigger and they want to become more profitable. So if you're just going to hire more white collar jobs as long as they're that much more profitable to the company. And so I ultimately think we're going to see job growth out of it. It's not, Buyer's Edge. We're not like slashing, our workforce, even though we've been investing in AI for 15 years, and the workforce just continues to grow throughout that whole time. And so, yes, we don't, will things move around? Will you hire less of this role, or will you cut back on this role and hire more of this role? Yes. So I can't promise every single title and every single company will grow over time, but the overall workforce, I don't see, going down over time.
Yeah. I get kind of a kick out of the whole how you bring AI into an organization because I feel like there's not a correlation between how many tokens you burn and how much more productive your system is. And I run into people that are running 20 unit brands where they had the right tech guy with the right personality who understood AI that stood up some incredible stuff that, the Coca-Colas of the world wouldn't even dare try, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like it would be kind of experimental. It's almost leveled the playing field in some ways where, there's a guy with 4 units that's got a fully automated marketing, engine that's just killing it. And then
Yeah.
there's giant organizations that have no idea and are just burning tokens.
Yep. Yep. You're seeing a lot of different levels. I think it's a problem. It's a problem that every business, not just restaurant or food service businesses, are grappling with. Is how you're going to leverage AI, where you're going to leverage it, how much you're going to spend on it, what are you giving your employees as far as AI, the tools you're going to, give to your employees. We have investors asking us, and I can only imagine any other business with investors they're being asked the same thing. What are you doing with AI? So it's a big challenge. I think it's not just something for the CTO or CIO or the IT guy has to go figure out. I think this is CEO on down has to figure out, how, what, where, when, and how much to spend on AI going forward.
How do you deal with the amount of data you have? Because it would be easy to have an AI tell me, how much I ordered last week, or how much did you save me on, a specific question, location, but you've got so many companies and tentacles everywhere, right? And if you could have AI that really truly understood the entire picture, I would think that would be incredibly powerful, but that's really hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to do, and obviously we're very sensitive about our customers' data, and we keep our customers' data separate and private. So we can aggregate certain things and get certainly industry trends and see what's happening across the industry by the data we have. But what we're really kind of focusing is like we've had and the industry's had for a while, like really good BI tools and industry tools that a human has to log in, look at it, check it out, and decide what action they should take based on with the data they're being shown in, say, a dashboard setting. The next evolution we've been really focused on for the last years, how do we just have our tools and the AI tools with the clean data we have, just tell them what it really thinks with a high probability they should do to move the needle the fastest, and then tell them exactly the steps to get them there.
Answers. They need answers.
Right. Yep. Not just dashboards and BI, but like the answers, and then potentially even agentically offer to go take some of that off their plate and go do it for them.
Well, walk me through that, because I think that is partially the CollectivIQ that you're working on, or at least that's the beginning of that process.
Yeah. Yeah. So, CollectivIQ was born out of the fact that we were trying all the different AIs out there, and we had a number of different licenses, and some employees were using Claude license, some were using GPT, some were using Gemini. People had their preferences, whatever. We did realize that we needed to own the enterprise license, or else if our employees were putting, our company data into a free license or a non-enterprise secure license, it could train it, and then all of a sudden our competitors could learn our most sensitive stuff.
And not to cut you off, but that is the one big one. Everyone's always, we haven't figured out our AI policy. It's like, well, you better figure it out now, because your team is probably using it.
Yeah, a lot of your company data is ending up in an AI, whether you know it or not. It's called shadow AI use, right? And so we had to lock that down when we learned that about a year and a half ago, and say, okay, I know I've been telling everybody to try whatever you want, but I got to put my foot in the mouth on that one. You got to hold off. We need an enterprise license. So we went with ChatGPT at $40 a month per employee. 1,400 employees, $700,000 bill.
Whew.
Yeah. So that was hard, but I didn't want to only give it to some employees and not give it to every employee, because it feels like it'd be like hiring a new employee and be like, oh, you're not worthy of a laptop, so we're not giving you a laptop. You're not paid enough. You're not high enough title to get a laptop. No, of course we give a laptop to every employee who joins our company.
Also, if 1 in 10 or 1 in 50 of them happen to come up with a great idea,
right,
that's pivotal.
Yeah. So I felt like I had to give it to everybody. I didn't want to only executives or only people of a certain title get AI. No, everybody gets AI, but it costs a lot. Then it was like, okay, we knew everybody was using a lot. We're pumping a lot in. And I called the sales rep for ChatGPT, and I asked for him to give me some analytics. So how was our employees using it? What were we getting out of it? What are we putting into it? And his answer was pretty blunt. It was basically like, can't give you anything. They're all separate instances. And blah, 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 blah. And I was
by the way, that makes me feel better that was the answer.
Yeah. So at least they, and I said, look, but I'm not asking you for, people's individual prompts. You know what I mean? I'm not asking you for, secrets here. I just want to know in general, give me some analytics. Right? He wouldn't do it. So he only give me, individual prompts, like how many prompts. So that's the downside of coming downstairs.
Hey, you got a good cell signal. It's
exactly,
all that matters.
That's perfect. So, so it really hit me that after that conversation, it's like, we have to own this. We can't just rent this from one vendor and get vendor locked into just one ChatGPT. We have to be able to be agnostic. I have one, we feel very vendor locked from Salesforce.com, and that bothers me, that I don't have a lot of bargaining power with Salesforce.com because anyway.
Because that's what you do, is bargaining power.
Yeah, I know. I would like to do an RFP every so often and bid them out, but it's Salesforce will call you out and be like, yeah, good luck trying to switch off our service. So that I don't like that, and I'm very much not trying to get into that with anybody else. And I was feeling that with ChatGPT and this enterprise license. So I went to my CTO and I'm like, how do we build our own LLM? And he goes, John, we can't build our own LLM. That's going to cost billions of dollars. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then a month later, I come back. Well, what if we did our own open source and we stood that up, and then at least we'd own our open source? He said, well, we could do that. It's probably going to cost $1 million a year. You're going to have to hire like 3-4 people. We have to stand it up, and you're going to do that, and then you're going to be like 4 generations of intelligence behind the latest frontier model. So that, and I was like, shit. Well, that doesn't sound great. So then I kind of woke up one morning, like in the middle of the night, and it dawned on me. I was like, why don't we just string together all of the main AIs and then create a consensus engine that gives us the best out of each one of them? And so that's basically what CollectivIQ does. You prompt it, it goes out smartly to the right LLMs at the right price, depending on what you ask, and it gets all their answers, and it pieces together the best of the best answer, the most accurate, the most honest, and it basically fact checks the underlying LLMs.
Okay,
make sense?
So many questions.
Okay.
All right, first question. There is obviously that's probably a great way to get the right answer. The mixture of experts, you get everybody in there. Also, a great way to just burn a ton of tokens. So
you would think so.
The question is, do you even care because this is the beginning of it and you can work on efficiency later? Or is there like a elegant way to do it cost effective?
Great question. And that's kind of the number one question we get. So number one, when I built this, I did not care about cost.
Yeah.
I was already spending $700,000 on a ChatGPT enterprise license. So cost was not the main concern. It was all about not getting vendor locked to one LLM, seeing all these announcements of Claude and Gemini 3. Back then it was Gemini 3 blew up the market with a lot. And I'm seeing, I was like, wait, I don't want to keep employees stuck on the oldest, the not so smart one. I want to be able to jump to that, but I can't keep jumping around on enterprise licenses and paying for multiple enterprise licenses. So it was less about cost and more about maximum intelligence that was going to give them the right answer, because there was a few scenarios where even I was using it for a major acquisition, and I was 25 prompts deep on a major acquisition and data and everything, and I challenged it on something because I talked to a human that told me, no, John, that's not right. And so I went back in my AI and I challenged it, and it goes, yeah, I have to be honest, I've been fabricating a number of facts throughout this thread. And I was like, what? So I was like, what do you mean? Like, give me details of what have you been fabricating? Oh, I've been fabricating certain specifications, it went through a laundry list of things that it fabricated throughout the thing. That was like a huge wake-up call. And if I hadn't talked to the human who challenged one of my data points or whatever, and then gone back and challenged it, it would never have admitted it fabricated. So I was basically then paying it to lie to me, essentially.
And do it well. That's the thing that kills you. It's very convincing.
I went back. It was so convincing. The way I'm certain of this, words like I'm definitely this. It was scary how convincing it was. Had I not been, had somebody fact check it, I would not have caught it. And it could have cost us many millions of dollars, that thing. So it was less about cost, because the cost of my employees going half off with the wrong data, or me presenting to my investors a wrong data point, was way more risky from a cost perspective than token costs.
Yeah, the cost of making a bad decision is much higher. Well,
yeah.
But John, you have the coolest data set ever.
Yeah.
Which is how all the LLMs perform on different, like the same prompt. So tell me, who's good, who's bad, who's in, who's out? Do you want the high-end models? Do they really do that big of a difference? Give it to me.
Yeah. So I hate to pick on any one model because, we use them all and you get access to them all through CollectivIQ. Some are more sycophants than others, meaning by sycophants, I think, I don't know if you know what that means.
They just want to make you happy.
Very make you happy, agreeable. It's a brilliant idea. Should we go sell ice to Eskimos? Yes, that's a great business model.
We should say that whatever we say right now is going to be completely out of date in like 6 weeks when the next model launch comes out. So
it's true. Yeah,
but yeah, like walk me through it.
Okay, so some are more sycophants. They basically digital yes men. Some are more just inaccurate. Like it's not necessarily malicious. They just get it wrong. Like an example, I went to one. My son was asking me for help with his geometry homework. I didn't know the answer, and so I snapped a picture of it. I sent it up to one of the models, and I came back with the answer to like 63. And I was like, John, the answer is 63. I thought I was being all cute and sneaky. And he's like, Dad, that's so wrong. Like, it's not right. I'm like, prove it. Like, come on, this is the smartest intelligence that humans have ever created.
It just wrote me a research paper on why it's right.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. It was very convincing. And sure enough, it was dead wrong. And so I don't think that was malicious. I think the AI just hallucinated and it just straight up didn't do a basic math problem correctly. But then there's that example I said where it was literally fabricating information. And that was the one that really got me. I was like, I cannot rely on any one model. And they all do it. It's like, it's amazing. As I watch it, CollectivIQ shows you like, it flags where they got wrong. It has argue mode. If two models completely disagree on a number, it will go through another round of arguing between those two. And then usually there'll be a verdict and one of them will convince the other one that theirs was right. That's a really fun stat to watch. Shows me what percentage it uses of each one. So oftentimes it'll just say 0 because like one of them just wholly hallucinated and it didn't get it right. So it doesn't use that at all. And it's not, there really isn't one winner take all. I wish I could say like this one's amazing and this one's not. They all are good at different prompts. They're good at different things. Some are good at math. Some are good at writing creative writing. Some are good at medical questions. Some are more better at big data problems. And that's what I think that the whole industry is going to learn, especially as you see like the Chinese models and everything coming out and open source. And there's a whole conversation going on about this. Is that I don't think there's going to good news. This is good news. I don't think there's going to be one winner take all. It's not going to be a monopoly or a duopoly of just Claude and ChatGPT. I think there's going to be a lot of models out there, and each one is going to be better at certain things and bad at other things. The only problem, to your point, is just going to be harder and harder for people to figure out like which one to do, who to sign up a contract with, who to pay, and that's where I'm excited. At least I have this CollectivIQ, and now it's going to just decide and route smartly to the one that is the best intelligence at the best value that is maximally honest.
Well, and again, the ground shifts beneath our feet. It's like, I remember even when it first started, ChatGPT 3 came out. We built an agentic system on it. And by the time it was ready, ChatGPT 3.5 was out. And then it was 4. It's like they update these things so frequently that it might be good at math one week, and then the next week it's really good at reading. So the ability to figure out who's the best and route it makes sense.
And the average restaurant operator who doesn't understand APIs or how to plug in APIs, they don't know how to bounce when the next new model comes out from a new company. That they don't really, nor they want to like go sign up and get a new API and plug it into their thing. And that's why we're trying to keep it really simple as CollectivIQ. You don't have to be like me up on all the latest, greatest models and what the one is. We get them plugged in within hours of them launching. And if you want to use like the max tier, which we call the frontier tier, you get Fable 5, you get GPT 5.6 Soul. It costs you more. It's definitely gonna be more expensive. But if you don't need that, you can just go to auto mode and you ask it like, what's the latest news? It's just going to go to the cheaper and expensive models, and it's going to do a perfectly good answer on what the latest news is. And that's where, back to your original question, that's how you save money, even though we're hitting multiple LMs, because it smartly routes up and down from frontier, the most expensive, call it Fable 5, down to GPT 2.5 Flash, which still works totally, good or whatever. It still uses those models for easy prompts.
And in some ways, that's kind of what the models are now doing themselves, even within their model. You ask Fable 5 and it spins up a bunch of agents that are using Sonnet to go do a bunch of work to be more cost effective.
Yep. Yep.
So where's all this going? Like it's great that you're putting the power in the hands of, the owners and the managers and the restaurateurs. It's going to open doors. They're going to do things with it. Is this one of those where you're just like, hey, people don't understand AI and we're going to help bring together all the AIs for them so they can have one place that they can trust with it? Or
Yeah.
is there a bigger vision to all of this?
Yeah. So the bigger step one was bringing all the best of intelligence together, creating the consensus engine to be at the best value / price for the prompt they're looking for, and weed out those fabrications, lies, or misinformation into an honest answer. And that's done. What we just are, where we're now taking it, and we are announcing here at our summit, is what we're calling digital direct reports. And so a digital direct report is any employee. So now all Buyer's Edge employees have spun up their own digital direct report. So it's a persona. It's you go through a hiring process. You go to Alice Hunter, the headhunter. You describe the role you want to work for you, and then she asks you several follow-up questions about what skill sets they need, how proactive they should be, what tools do they need, et cetera, et cetera. And then it spins up a profile and it gives you a first name and last name. You can change that to whatever first name and last name you want, but it gives you a first name and a last name. Mine's called Max Moore, is my main guy. And then, it gives you a picture, a persona, and then you hire that person. And then you start chatting in a simple chat format with that digital direct report. And they take, again, a mixture of the LLMs for the task you give it. But I have my digital direct report monitoring my email, easy to connect it to Microsoft 365. So it monitors my Teams chats, my email, has access to my OneDrive, drafts responses that I can approve, or to my own internal company employees, it can respond for me in Teams. It has a ton of context on me now, so it does a very good job of responding on my behalf. As a restaurant owner, you could spin up a menu engineer, in which that menu engineer, you just point it to your company, your website, your menu, and then you can have it say, go compare it to all the other menus of similar restaurants in my area. Tell me where I'm overpriced, underpriced, what products I'm missing on my menu compared to others. It's pretty incredible, the stuff you can do with it, and especially when you tap it into your Buyer's Edge data, which you're now able to do.
Okay. So again, I have so many questions.
Okay, good.
First, the hiring. That's a very specific hiring process. I have not heard of anybody doing that.
Yeah.
How did that come to fruition?
I played around with OpenClaw, which you're probably familiar with, right?
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Pretty cool. Was blown away with it, like a lot of people. It's cool. I gave it a name, and it's doing some different stuff. But as I play with it, it just still didn't feel like an actual employee that I would really be willing to have talk to my human employees. So I sat back and said, okay, how do we make CollectivIQ feel like it's a real digital persona that can actually do real work for me? What can I really delegate to this? And the average restaurant owner or whatever doesn't understand OpenClaw, nor should they set it up, or it's very complicated. It's a lot to do with setting it up.
Also, great way to burn a lot of money.
Yeah, burn a ton of tokens. You need a separate device. There's a whole bunch of security implications. We wanted this to be like the easy button of agentic AI, which it is. It's all in the cloud. You don't need this device. You go through just like I would do if I in a company. I want to hire somebody. You got to go talk to the recruiting department. You talk to the recruiter. You describe what you want. They persona. And you can plug in your tools, you can plug it into your inside track, and you can challenge it to find you products that you're overpaying on. Which products should I be the most concerned on that are rising in price the most this 6 months? And then what should I do about it? And they go help you figure that out.
So this is the art, not the science of AI. There's an art to putting all of this together. And I'm sure there were some variables that really mattered. Setting up an agent with personality that's the right agent for you, what were the things that mattered most?
Yeah. The big one we challenged it. I told it that I found my OpenClaw wasn't proactive. It would sit around and just kind of wait for me to come back unless I set up a cron job or something. Maybe it'd spit back to me on a random time cycle. I couldn't get my OpenClaw to truly proactively come back to me at a random time and be like, John, you really need to do this, or this is a really big problem. So we are really focused on trying to get these things to be proactive. And again, the way I describe it to developers is say, just if I hired an intern or I hired a junior employee, and if I have this junior employee and I have aspirations for them to be a great employee, if I don't give them perfect directions, which as a manager, I'm not great at giving you like a laundry list of things to go do. I just kind of like give you general guidance and I hope you go do it. And I hope you come back to me with some really good results. And that's what we're trying to get these DDRs to do, is even if you don't talk to it for a little while, and you don't give it specific directions, like I want you to do this, this, and this, it's going to like look through your data and come back and be like, hey, there's a big problem. This product is rising, far greater, 2x faster than anything else. And would you like me to send an email to your distributor rep and question them on why your pricing is going up so much? And you can just go approve, and it will draft the email and it'll send it out to your sales rep and challenge why your pricing is up so much.
All right. So the first thing I'd want to do is I'd end up with like 15 agents just because of like natural curiosity. And it comes back to the point of agents are actually really bad at managing things, right? You'd think I've got this super intelligence. It can do anything. Like it can certainly manage itself. And, it doesn't. Like there's like a skill to managing agents.
Yes.
How do you manage agents?
It's back to you gotta really tell them what's important to you, and that you've got to give them the autonomy to do it, even when you're not giving them specific directions. So we're in CollectivIQ, we're very much hard coding a lot of this logic behind the scene, because the average user hasn't spent time on an OpenClaw or Hermes Claw and really got it to actually do anything useful. We're trying to take a lot of that learning and make these, really proactive for, again, a non-technical, somebody like, not like you and I who really geeks out on this stuff and plays with all the latest agentic, tools.
And I think that it's an important point to like hammer home. Just because AI can build things doesn't mean it's going to do a very good job. And setting up the architecture, things like permissions and what's read only and what it can write to, like all the guardrails really, really matter. Like it'd be like going into a restaurant and being like, you don't need to follow the recipes. In fact, make whatever you want, right? Like it probably isn't going to go very well. So like you've now got this framework in place where you can empower somebody to say, I want to hire this person. I want them to do these tasks. And they probably do a pretty decent job.
Yeah, no, they do. It's pretty incredible. And unlike, OpenClaw, Hermes, we're not built for really enterprise. This is built for an enterprise application. So we've hard coded all the stuff that, like, it's not allowed to communicate with an external party without going through an approval process. Human has to click approve. Internally, you can tell it, I'm okay with you communicating with a fellow employee. It's allowed to do that without approval if you tell it as a user to do that. Can't access certain things. It can't there's a whole bunch of security settings we've set across it to make it enterprise ready.
How do you deal with the whole AI slop where it's just giving you lots of words that are not overly helpful?
Yeah, it's all in the architecture in the back end. And you see, a lot, because you can even ask that question because you've obviously spent a lot of time with it. So that it does that. We've spent a lot of time with it. So we on our back end, it's like everything has to be concise. You really, unless the user asks you to write an essay, you have to keep it to like, under, X number of words and stuff like that. So there's just guardrails, and look, we're figuring out. I'm not going to claim it's like perfect. It's been in the hands of my 1,400 Buyer's Edge employees for about 3 weeks, and we've debugged it and we've made modifications, and we think it's ready for other customers. So we're bringing on beta customers onto it right now.
I mean, it's an exciting time, right? We're all working in public, building in public. The technology is changing so fast. Have you sat back and thought, if this goes well, we're going to give hundreds of thousands of restaurants the ability to have digital agents overnight. And they're going to build things with them. And those things probably, they have the close to super intelligence. They could do almost anything. The industry is going to change as a result of AI. Have you thought about like what the secondary effects are and what the world's going to look like the next 12, 24 months?
I think that what I hope it happens, and it's relatively simple, is I just hope restaurants become more profitable. Because to your earlier point, it's hard to run a restaurant. It's super freaking complicated. It's not easy to make money. When you hit it big and you have a great concept that you have lines out the door, you make really nice margin. You have a nice profitable restaurant. A lot of restaurants aren't like that. So if you can take the average restaurant and you can increase, their EBITDA margin and put more money their bottom line, and take some if you can delegate some of the mundane, annoying tasks, like maybe monitoring your TikTok, to your point, or monitoring your Facebook, or monitoring your Yelp comments negatively and whatever, and you can delegate that to somebody that's something that doesn't sleep, works 24/7, and it can ultimately end up with more profitable restaurant operation. That's where I hope it is 6, 12 months, in the future.
I think the biggest realization I had when I was in restaurants was how diverse the skill set you needed to have.
Yeah.
You're managing your permits and your health inspections and your health policies, and don't forget to file your business license, and you kind of got to be good at HR for hiring and firing, and
Yep.
you got to know Excel, and but you don't have to be like great at it. You just need to be proficient at it. And AI is proficient at all those.
It knows everything, right? It knows every health regulation in every specific state. It helps us write contracts in Denmark. Like, we used to have to hire a lawyer in these other countries as we expanded. Now we just have the AI write us the first draft of the legal contract and all the local regulations and laws. So as a restaurant operator, used to maybe have to hire several consultants to deal with things that they weren't good at. I hope is they can delegate a lot of that to AI, and it's gonna be way cheaper and way faster. And then it helps them juggle all this stuff. When you just started this restaurant to make great food and serve customers, and then you kind of dawned on you that you have to know so much more than how to cook a good dish. AI, hopefully you can delegate. You should be able to delegate a lot of that stuff to AI.
Yeah, I think just like on the programming side, it used to be you had to go through a programmer to write code. To be a general manager, you really did need to have all the admin and quantitative. You had to be good at inventory and the P&L. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but I wonder if there'll be a shift there where all of a sudden you can start self-selecting for more hospitality people.
Yeah.
Good with the team, good with the customers.
Right. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the only other, if you want to do weekly inventory, oftentimes you got to hire or pay somebody more time or hours to go really have a regimented inventory process. I think AI is something that, can take that off the plate, and that's money that's going to fall to the bottom line. You're going to have more profitable restaurant owners, or open more restaurant, open a second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th, restaurant, if we can help them become more profitable.
How do you feel about restaurateurs using AI to build their own technology? Because I feel like that would be the natural evolution.
Yeah, take in CollectivIQ, you can spin up your engineer, and I'd recommend anybody spinning that up, because it basically does all the vibe coding you're talking about. And then you just natural language talk to your engineer, and you could say, I haven't spent money on a shift scheduling software yet. Go research all the shift scheduling softwares on the market and build me a shift scheduling tool for my 30 employees. It can build that, and you now might avoid paying a SaaS fee for another tool or whatever. And now you have a whole shift scheduling app that you vibe coded and built yourself. And again, it's money, you're more profitable. And now you have a tool you maybe been holding out. We've been doing shift scheduling the old fashioned way on pen and paper. Now you can shift to an actual digital one, and you can vibe code that.
Yeah, I think one of the things Salesforce did is they implemented the whole headless architecture, this idea of, accessing the data through Claude or, any other way. They just kind of are almost this behind the scenes invisible data standardization system of record.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wonder what that economy looks like, because I do think people can vibe code a dashboard for themselves, or the UI, it's great at that and you could see it. But at the same time, you don't want it messing with the numbers behind the scenes. You'd hate to, I can imagine a world where you tell your AI, I need my food cost to go down by 0.5% every week. And, the AI starts lying to you because it wants to show that your food, it's I didn't realize that they weren't really going down. That's just what the AI was telling me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's got to be something there in terms of governance, or the master systems of record.
Yeah. Yeah, no. It's AI is it's super powerful, but it's also dangerous. If you, like you said, if you said, I want to lower my food cost by 0.5% every week, well, by that theory, in a couple of years, your food costs will be down to like 5%. And so that's obviously impossible. But it's so you have to be careful with what you tell it to do as it be
Or
handled,
have
or
or have
of the
5 of
control
them
too.
that are all agreeing that it's the right answer. That also
Yeah,
helps.
right. Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it was funny. I had that. It was Friday night. It was like 10 o'clock, long week. I had a glass of bourbon on the back patio, and I'm sitting there thinking about something I built, and like I'm like, oh shit, I don't know if the numbers it's giving me are correct. Like for all I know, it made this stuff up. It was the first time it was like, because when you look at something on a dashboard, right, it seems
Yes.
like fact, but
Yes. No, you should go look at with the numbers, because I have mine doing a lot of presentation building. I almost never use PowerPoint ever again. A CollectivIQ engineer will build me an amazing animated deck. I give it a couple prompts. It does all of its own research and it fills in all its numbers. It looks amazing, but I have to tell it, make it editable, because when it puts important numbers in, it fills in a number, but sometimes it literally just makes those numbers up.
yeah. Absolutely insane. I was having this conversation with Bill Lindsay, Cogswell, back of house software. And,
Mm.
one of the things that I was sitting there thinking, well, maybe Google will just have, their AI build restaurants back house software and give it away for free so they can get more data. Like that's something you could almost do today. And
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking of like, how far are you going to let AI go into your software? And part of me thought, having a system of record that AI can't touch is really important. On the flip
Yeah.
side, it's really nice to be able to tell AI, just go in and change all the numbers because we changed our recipe and that's all out of date, and have it change everything. You got any
Yeah.
sense of how deep you think AI should go into systems?
I think people will keep pushing it until there's several tragic examples of where, like I said, it either doubled their food cost or cut their food cost in half. But it also meant the quality of the food also got dramatically cut in half. And those stories will get out and people will pull back. But that's a part of the advancement of technology. You push it, you hit a wall, or you might have to take a step back because you might have given up too much control. But then you build more guardrails, build more safeguards, and you move ahead. I don't get too scared. I don't have I don't think AI is going to put any restaurant out of business anytime soon. And if it did, it would be such a big story, and it probably wouldn't happen again. But I think ultimately, we've all been giving over more and more of our data and everything to apps, software, tools, and everything, and it's ultimately that is been a good thing. It's created more visibility, more transparent, a little more complications like you're talking about, but ultimately, I don't think we ever want to go back to pure clipboards and only paper invoices, with the coffee stains on them. I don't think we want to go back to that day.
Unless we have our Y2K moment with AI.
Yeah, that's true.
John,
That could happen.
you run a massive 1,400 person organization. You're a multi-billion-dollar company, and you guys have gone into AI and are actively using it. What do you say to all the CEOs out there that are just waiting on the sidelines and tentative about this and risk averse? I mean,
Yeah. I think that my advice would be, you really can't ignore it. You've got to spend the time on it. Even if you say it doesn't affect my business today, it's hard to imagine it won't really affect your business in 6 months or a year. So the longer you wait to dive in and play with it, tinker with it, toy with it, the harder it's going to be when the time comes where you really do, need to dive into it. Uh, and secondarily, I think it really can be a massive efficiency tool. I think, yeah, I talk a lot about speed when I talk to my employees, and I talk a lot of times on stage and everything. It's all about, like, everything's about pace. The faster we can achieve something, uh, translates to growth, right? If you want revenue growth, or profit growth, you have to go faster, right? You have to serve more food quicker at a lower price, or there's just, you can almost bring everything back to speed, if you want to grow. AI is a massive accelerant to um, access to information, access to intelligence. And so, to ignore that, I think is really just putting yourself at a disadvantage. So step one is they got to tinker with it, see it, sit in on demos. People are oftentimes surprised that I sit it through certain tech demos that, normally I have other people would make the decision on these software tools. I like to sit in on the demo. I like to see it myself and understand it. And that's part of how I sort of keep up the speed on these things. I was impressed. I did a demo with a 300 unit restaurant chain today. He was the founder. He sat through the demo. It was just him. He didn't bring his IT people or anything. And I give him a lot of props. He's a good example of a restaurant CEO fully diving in, spending the time himself, learning it. But he's at the end of the day, he's a restaurant owner and operator.
And he
So
makes the
cool.
time.
Yeah, he made the time. And so that's fun. So that's a similar situation I'm in. And but we have a lot of people that can help navigate and help them understand technology and data and AI. So, but yeah, short answer is you got to tinker with it, play with it. Good news, you can do most of it on your phone now, so it's not like you have to be sitting at your desk and tinker around with this stuff. You can
Put your headphones in and talk
around.
to it.
Yeah, I'm driving around. My car self drives. I drive a Cybertruck, and I essentially vibe code while the car is driving me around. So it's pretty fun.
Well, John, I appreciate you coming on today. If anybody's interested in Buyer's Edge, how do they find you? How do they reach out?
Yeah, I would say if you don't have a connectivity with any of our client managers, any of our business development people out there, just go to the website, acquire through there. We operate under a lot of different companies, so start with buyersedgeplatform.com and see what we do and reach out. And we got people. We have real humans that will talk to you. It won't be a digital direct report just yet.
Just yet.
Give us a couple months on that one.
Until they're better than the regular humans.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, John, thanks for coming on. This has been fantastic.